Hello, hello, hello. I am always effusively excited to get to learn with y'all. And I am especially excited to learn with you all today because we're working on something that always feels a little bit difficult to me. So let me get up our notes. Today, we're going to be talking about HTML elements that put external content into our web pages. Yeah. And the two big ones we're going to look at today are iframes and videos. Yeah, let's take a look. I've got my notes. I'll go ahead and drop this in. But your notes might look a little different. And the big thing I want to lovingly and gently push y'all to do is be writing down questions in your notes. So if you have any questions in your note, go ahead and drop those into the chat as we go. Cool. So we've got, I think, let's check out what did we have before this session? We had two pieces of theory. Okay, some theory, not a ton. But then we had a workshop, and we'll work through most of the workshop stuff. It's a short workshop. We'll probably work through all of them together. And then we'd like you to start the build a video compilation page. And because this one is because these are sort of creative, the build a video compilation page, we're not going to show you how to do it. We're just going to talk through some of the basic concepts and ask you to address this as creatively as possible. As an icebreaker question, oh gosh, can I ask a hard icebreaker question? So of the things we've learned so far, or of maybe web development or programming terms you've heard so far, what are the scariest sounding things? Which of the things have we looked at or have we hinted at or have you heard someone else mention where you're like, do you know what this programming concept or this web development concept sounds like it's going to get me? And the reason I'm asking you about something scary is later on, we'll go ahead if we've got some extra time, we'll look at some of these scary ones and see if we can't either make them a little less scary or decide that they're tomorrow's problems. I see some really, really good questions. I'll definitely jump in here. So we've asked you to read these two, work through the steps, and start the build a video compilation page. If you finished it, woof, that's so much work. I'm impressed. There's no hard deadlines. If you get to that over the next couple of days. We're going to review our notes in this session. We're going to work through all the steps from the build a video display using iframe, and we'll review some of the video elements and talk a bit more about iframes. And we're also going to talk through how you could approach build a video compilation page, but you've got to finish this solo. We're going to come, and tomorrow, very excitingly, you do not get to listen to me talk about links tomorrow. You get to listen to Carmen talk about links tomorrow. You get me again on Friday because I'm going to be really, really excited and a little bit aggressive about semantic HTML. We're going to come all the way down to the notes. And the first thing we took a look at are replaced elements. And this is kind of a difficult concept. So, what makes this kind of difficult is we haven't done any CSS yet. So when we're working with learners and when we're learning together with you, one of the hardest things to try and plan for is what's the right level of abstraction? What's the right level of saying, hey, let's dive really deep into these concepts now, or let's wait, or let's simplify this. Yeah. We haven't done any CSS yet. I promise we're going to do this soon. And I understand me saying we haven't done CSS yet. This will make sense. It feels a lot like when your parents or when your grandparents say, this will make sense when you're older. Luckily, when we're older is in a couple more weeks. So you've got to trust me for now, but we're learning the basics of HTML to get the content and the structure of our web pages up. Usually, the styling of this will be guided by CSS, which I promise we'll start learning soon. But some types of HTML elements can have their content and their style determined by an external resource. And these are called repeated elements. And these are elements that take external content and put them to where your users can see them or listen to them. A really good example of this is the image element. An image element, you can style it using CSS. And again, we'll learn about this soon, but trust me, you can change the border radius, how curvy it is. You could change the size. But the image that you put on your web page using the image element is always going to show the source that you link to. So, yeah. We're going to talk about something that's a little bit more complex than just showing an image. And showing an image is already pretty complex. We're going to be talking about iframe elements. And an iframe is kind of the ability to put a website in your website. I've got the MDN documentation here. I'm going to open that up in a new tab. And I'm going to take a look at this as well, the iframe element theory that we took a look at. So here we've got the image screen. We learned about that. Let's take a look at the interactive editor. Oh, may I have the interactive editor, please? There we are. So here we have 11 million subscribers. Heck, that's so many. Here we have an iframe element. And I'm going to go ahead and put this all on one line. Is it possible to? Oh, that's a bit rubbish too, isn't it? Let's open this in Code Sandbox. My apologies. Here we go. This is what I wanted. Can you all see this okay? So here, we've got the example from the documentation in our, and I'll link this to you. We've got our example from our documentation in the working from an iframe element. So this is the same as looking at it in this external tool, Code Sandbox. And the reason we're looking at it like this is, I want to better understand what's going on here. I'm going to break this up just because we've got a bunch of attributes happening. Okay, so, and you all can follow along with this. Oh, okay, so we've got some really good questions. Let's start to examine those as we do this. So the big thing I want to talk to you about is this iframe. There's not a lot else on this page, so it's kind of difficult to get a really good. Right now, the only content we have is the content from this iframe, is the content from this YouTube video. So let me go ahead and add some extra content just so we can see the page around it. My page has my content, H1 here. Yeah. Okay, so we see that. Then we've got the video here inserted. It's an iframe element. We have a P element here. This is also my content on my page. Okay, I'm going to preview this as well. So this is really, really interesting because this is my web page, which I'm writing about. But this content, this video isn't mine. I'm linking to it somewhere else. And we had a really, really good question already to say, hey, during this content that we're going to be reviewing today, we learned about iframe and video elements. What's the difference here if your source is a video? I think this is a really, really good question. Functionally, they work pretty similarly. We're going to learn more about this on Friday, but video is a more specific element. So iframe could be putting an external piece of website. It could be a OpenStreetMap. It could be a link to it could be a link to Terrence, our guest's website to show us SVGs. So video and iframe can both have a lot of the same controls, which we'll learn about. A title, we can allow accelerometer, autoplays, still very video feeling allows, but we're going to get a lot more specificity, a lot more semantic meaning from video. This won't make as much sense before Friday, but I promise we'll learn a little bit more of this in a second. Oh, this is a really good question that I might come back to at the end. So YouTube embed, so an iframe is embedding an external source into your web page. And Euladale is saying, hey, when we're using iframe, how does it know a YouTube link is a video? Gosh, I don't actually know this, so I'm going to save this to the end, and we might dig into this at the end. One more question, and we'll get to this when we talk about it in more detail. What's the difference between a accelerometer and a gyroscope? I'd have to double check, so I'm going to ask my brilliant behind the scenes. So I'm going to double check with Edda, our technical expert, because I think I have the answer, but I don't want to give you the wrong answer. So I'm going to save this until we get to that part in the material. So here we've got my page where I've got an H1 and I've got a P. I could have tons of other stuff on this page, but the thing that we really want to pay attention to is that this iframe, which is a video in this case, and we'll learn about video elements next, is giving us external content. Yeah, I'm going to come all the way back. So iframe elements, a repeated element, like we've just learned, elements that display external content, which we can style some aspects. We can change the width and the height and the position. But the video that we just saw, I can't really change the video in my HTML that I linked to. Video elements are really similar to iframe elements. They're a repeated element that allows us to embed videos in our web pages. iframe lets you add videos if you want. Video elements let you add videos if you want. Both of them can let you do the same thing in this case, but as we're going to learn about on Friday, whenever we can, we want to pick the most specifically accurate element. So if we say, I've got a video I want to show, should I pick iframe or video? It's a video. Video is more specific. We'll go with that. The theory material here also talks about input elements. And this feels like a weird thing to do as an instructor, but I'm going to politely and lovingly suggest that we not worry about input elements yet. We're going to learn a bunch of stuff about forms, and input elements are going to come up then. What we learned in the theory is if you use an input element in some ways, it can be a repeated element, but not always. And I don't think that's super helpful quite yet, so we're going to leave that alone. We've got somebody saying, I don't understand how input works. I mean, what's the idea of input? And this is a really good question. Also, I like how direct this question is. Please, please, please. You're never going to be too, I'd be surprised if y'all could be too bossy. Saying, hey, what is input doing here? Why should I use it instead of image screen, for for example. And I love that you've got the trailing slash on your image source void element. I always forget mine. So let's come back to the what are repeated elements material. And we've got another example of an iframe, and this is showing us a map. And this feels a little bit more like what I'd use an iframe for instead of a video, because it's not a video. I'm going to come all the way down and we're going to talk about input. Yeah. Why would I use input here and not image? I agree with you. I would use image here, and this feels super weird. I think this tutorial has told us about input to sort of preview, to say, hey, there's other kinds of things you can do that are technically repeated elements, but we're not going to learn about them yet. So input, when we learn about inputs, is going to mostly focus on non-repeated elements. Uladil is saying, hey, there's another difference between video and iframes. And Uladil is saying, when you add an iframe element, you're bringing everything at that URL. Yeah, but a video element needs a video file as a source. So a little bit less, so it has more specific requirements. We're gonna come back and all of these feel a little weird, and these are gonna feel weird until we get to the actually doing things part. And I'm really sorry because one of the things that's really, really hard with working with really motivated learners is trying to decide where and how to abstract things away and say, don't worry about it, ignore this for now. And I've already said, don't worry about CSS, we'll get there soon. And now I'm telling you, don't worry about input elements. In the next session, I'm going to preview something that's actually kind of hard that we don't need to know yet. So remember, we're going to use an iframe element when you want to embed external web or video content in your web page. But really, we'll use the video tag for video. And Jacob makes a really good point to say, do you know what? The iframes elements are much older than video. So being able to use it for video is also a little bit of a historic holdover. So with our iframe elements, we can use a bunch of different attributes to set the size and positioning, the width and the height. That's not a problem. But because we're linking to external resources, we're pulling those external resources into our web page to show them, we want to go ahead and also start adding additional attributes. The title lets your users see what is the title of this external resource. And this is especially useful for folks who are visiting your web page and they're using accessibility tooling. There's an attribute that says allow full screen. Say, hey, if this is a video or if this is, I suppose it could be an iframe that you allow full screen. It'd be a bit weird to make a map full screen, but nobody can stop you if it's in your heart. Allow full screen is an attribute you can set to say, hey, let users make this as big as they can. And the allow attribute, we're going to dig into this a little bit more. And this is where we're coming back to this really good question. The allow attribute lets us set rules about what our users can and can't do with the external content in the iframe element. And this feels weird. But whenever we're requesting something on the web or interacting with stuff on the web, we're not just getting data. We're not just getting a web page. We're not just getting a resource. We're often sending a request, and we're often sending a request that sends some data with it. Or we can often link to resources using iframes or videos that allow those external resources to control different aspects or access data from different aspects of our users' devices. So come in. Think about allow as setting the permissions of what we're allowed to do and what we're not, or what we're allowing that external iframe or that external video resource that's having that external resource is hanging out on our website. It's having a sleepover. It's a guest. Allow sets the permissions for what that guest is allowed to access. We're going to go through and build a video using iframe. But before we do, let's just preview some of the attribute values we're going to include. And we had a really, really good question where Matthew was saying, hey, can we talk about the difference between accelerometer and the gyroscope? And because I like to ask people who are smarter than me, Edda has really helpfully spelled this out in an easy way to remember. Accelerometer is giving it access, giving the iframe content or the iframe application access to information about, is the device moving? So, hey, am I moving around in real time? Whereas gyroscope is, am I rotating? So, you know how if you've got a modern phone and you tip it to the side, if you're looking at a web browser or if you're looking at, it's not a modern phone, it's a very, very old iPhone. Your content will also often change directions based on how you flip your phone. That's the gyroscope and accelerometer having permission, being allowed to share that information with the iframe or video, if it's an iframe or video, or the website itself directly to say, hey, if my user tips their phone, listen on the accelerometer, listen on the gyroscope, and if they tip it, go ahead and serve them the adjusted version of that. Yeah, is that helpful? So Edda has helpfully suggested we think of accelerometer as, am I moving? And gyroscope as, am I rotating? Also, apparently the gyroscope is more sensitive, which I didn't know at all. So accelerometer lets the content in the iframe access information about how the user is holding or moving their device. Am I moving? Lets it check for that. Autoplay, if the content in the iframe is something that can be played, MP3 or a video, it will give permission. It will allow that media to automatically begin playing if your user has set it up that way. The clipboard write permission says, hey, if my user wants to maybe right click on this and copy the URL of this content to their clipboard, cool, you're allowed to copy it to the clipboard. Encrypted media is not my favorite one. Encrypted media says, hey, if the content in this iframe is using special software to limit the media, so to limit what you can do with the media it's displaying, encrypted media allows you to do that. And Jacob says, yeah, and this is absolutely right. Corporate sites like YouTube using using software that we're enabling with encrypted media makes it harder to do things. Like it keeps your users from downloading the content, for example, which is a shame because I often want to save a YouTube video. And also web share. So many devices, this could be a browser, this could be a phone, this could be an operating system, will often have a built-in way to share content. So if I'm on a web browser on my phone and I push the share option, it will give me a little Apple pop-up for, here are the different ways you can share this. By allowing the web share permission, it says, hey, if my user wants to share this content that's living in the iframe, they can do that with the capabilities built into their device. Hmm. Just grabbing some extra questions. Is a YouTube embed a separate web page without all the other things on a typical video page? How does the iframe know what to get from the URL? So with the YouTube embed, we're going to we're going to embed specifically the address for the video. I think if you linked to hang on. So so a YouTube embed is going to have different behavior based on what we're linking to. If I linked to the Bad Website Club YouTube landing page, it's not going to automatically start playing a video. Whereas if I share, the embed option here is going to automatically jump to, hey, give me the address specifically of just this video resource. So through really, really specific internet magic, if that's okay. Oh, Jacob is asking, oh, you mentioned that we can include a title attribute in our iframes or in our videos. Is that like adding an alt attribute on an image? This is the best way to ask this question, and I am in love with this question. It's not the exact same, but it's not that different. So it will give us some clues about what that video is in case we're not able to load it. And it will give folks using assistive technology the opportunity to say, give me some additional context about what this is. But one thing that's really, really important about it for iframes and external media is a common type of assistive technology is a screen reader, which will come through and verbally read everything that's on the page by being able to articulate, here's an external resource, here's the title of what it is. It speeds up that user being able to say, I'm going to go get this content, or you know what, I don't actually need to go get a OpenStreetMap to a restaurant I'm not going to go to. So we're going to come in here. Oh, and we've got a really, really helpful one. Euladil is helping me. Euladil is saying, hey, a gyroscope will tell you if the device is tilted but not moving, and the accelerometer is telling you if it's moving. I'm glad you and Etta agree so strongly. So gyroscope, am I rotating? Accelerometer, am I moving? Yeah. Stunning, stunning. Oh, where am I? So we've got a couple of additional, looking at the YouTube on YouTube. It's got to be really, really unsettling. So, got these. I'm going to come back to this because I think we need to talk a little bit about sending and requesting information on the web. So could I ask all of you to yell at me really, really nicely when we get to the point in the project where we talk about the refer policy? Can y'all all yell, stop, 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 stop? Jess, talk to us about what a refer means. So let's jump in. I promise I'm going to come back to, and just as a spoiler, we're going to talk about HTTP, a protocol, a way to send information. We're going to talk about HTTPS a little tiny bit. And we talk about this a lot in this course about previewing things that we'll need to know about eventually, but we don't need to know in detail yet. So we're going to talk about this just to make the refer section make more sense, but this isn't something we'll need right away in great detail. Let's, however, build an iframe video display. Okay. So it'll have this H1. Oh gosh, you can't see. I'm rubbish. Y'all are so patient. Cool. We're going to build this. It's going to be really step by step, not a lot of creativity. And we're going to go so fast through this. We're not going to go line by line. We have our boilerplate, our doc type, our HTML element, our head with our metadata in it. And then all of the things we're going to build here are going to be in our body because they're user visible. We're writing this for humans, not for machines, because machines get the metadata in the head. Here we've got an H1 element that says iframe video display. And I'm going to use Command or Control C to copy it and Command or Control V to paste it because it's not as important that I know how to type that. We're going to bop right out, and y'all yell at me if you have questions as we go. Okay. I'm seeing a question about exercise handbook, and we'll come back to that. I'm not ignoring you, I promise. So we've got this step 2. We're going to create an iframe element. Iframe is not a void element, which means it will have a closing tag. And you might say, yes, because we're chill, we're on a first name basis. Iframe, we're seeing it written over and over again as iframe in the documentation. We generally don't capitalize our HTML. Oh gosh, let's actually close that. We generally don't capitalize in our HTML tags. We can if we want. It won't. I don't think it'll change anything. I think it'll still pass. Oh, iframe. We should spell it correctly though, shouldn't we? Okay, so the capital letter here doesn't make a single bit of difference. It does, however, make it less human readable. People, other developers you're working with, are going to like it less. So our iframe element, we're going to start chucking in some attributes. Got a width that is equal to 560, I bet it's pixels here, and then a height, and we're going to come in, and that's going to be 315. So I can't tell how well you can see it, but we've got an empty box here. Yeah. Ooh, I'm seeing a ton of really good questions come in. Thank you. Just making a quick note to grab this in a second. So here we're just adding the styling that we can add, not a problem. We're going to continue and bop on. It's going to get real hard in a second conceptually, but before it does, we have a not quite commercial break. Please remember, the bootcamp is free. There's literally no way to pay for it. If you meet somebody online who says, oh, hey, send me money. No, they're messing about. And Free Code Camp, the learning material we use, is also free. And they are a registered charity. Don't you ever spend money you don't have. I'm not the boss of you, but I'm a little bit the boss of you for stuff like this. If you have the cash, and if you're confident, and if Free Code Camp helped improve your life, donating is a really nice thing to do. Okay, so the iframe element also takes a source attribute. Oh, this is something I wanted to ask about. What do we think about attributes? Do they have to come in any kind of special order generally? So here, the tutorial environment has said, hey, 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 on line 13, we want you to add it here because we've put you here. Will it break anything if I put my source up here? And this is what I always really, really like. We're not sure. Let's see if we can break it. And here, we've got our iframe instead of a video. I bet we'll do videos next. But next is in the next exercise. We're going to grab the source, the URL of this video. Oh, and I love how self-referential this is. We've got a video about how to embed video. Lovely, stunning, perfect. I really like stretch solo work. So like, oh, what's a little bit more I could do to do a little bit, understand a little bit better? I bet watching this video would probably not hurt. I bet if we check our code, yeah. So I quite like this. We talk about meta tags in our HTML as giving information about the HTML page itself. Meta can also refer to a concept that's self-referential. Oh, I love it. I love it. Our code does pass. It won't always pass. So we're going to keep going. Now things are going to get not stressful, but complicated. So right now we're being asked to add a bunch of different attributes. Well, really, we're adding one attribute and passing in a bunch of different values, and we don't really know too much about it yet. So let's talk about it as we go. We're setting the allow attribute, and the allow attribute, I'm going to come and get the permissions policy. The allow attribute, what this is doing is, we've got more of a comment than a question, and I love it. I love it. I'm going to say, Jacob, I'm not ignoring you. I'm going to get this in a second. And I've got a really good question from you as well. So the permissions policy, this is going to be a little difficult. This is some of the more technical documentation that's going to feel really, really hard to parse. But we don't need to understand all of this yet. What I do want to come down to is a chart down here. Come on, I know there's a chart. I promise there's a chart. I've seen you before. Y'all, there's definitely a chart, isn't there? It would be weird if this chart wasn't real. Haha. Browser compatibility. We'll talk more about browser compatibility later because not all features work in all browsers. Yikes. But this browser compatibility chart gives us a really good look at which kinds of permissions we might be able to set. So access to the accelerometer, which lets the content ask, your user's device, is it moving around? Works in Chrome and Edge and not Firefox yet, and Opera. And so people using different devices and different browsers may have the ability to see this differently. I'm just grabbing these because these will give us a really good hint of what kinds of things we might be able to set. Oh, Bluetooth as an allow suggests I might be able to tell the content in my iframe that it is allowed to use Bluetooth or allowed to use the camera. Yikes. The camera seems real creepy, but if you're using a video conferencing application embedded in iframe, that would make sense. So I just wanted to say, hey, here's a whole bunch of these. And a lot of these we won't learn. And a lot of these you may never use. Oh, a gamepad. Nope. Y'all help me out. Make sure that I do not get sidetracked with cool stuff. I'm going to add to my notes to myself Look at Gamepad later. Y'all don't need to. And this is just my notes to me to have a little bit of an experimental poke around later. We're going to come back to this because what we're going to allow is we're going to allow accelerometer. Okay. Did I spell that right? Maybe. If I didn't, it'll yell at me. I'm going to say, yeah, go ahead and set autoplay. I know I didn't spell autoplay right. And let's also allow clipboard right. So what I'm saying is this video, this YouTube video embedded in my website, I want to allow YouTube or this YouTube video to access the accelerometer. I want to let it autoplay if that's working. And I want it to be able to copy to clipboard. Jane is saying, oh, Firefox doesn't allow much these days. So I'm a little bit biased. I used to work at Mozilla and used to be a pretty heavy Firefox user. Different browsers will roll out support for different features at different times. Almost all of the other browsers we looked at in this permissions policy are based on the same technology. So Chrome and Edge and Opera are all based on some underlying code that's open source called Chromium. Firefox and Safari are made of completely different code bases. So a lot of stuff that just magically works for Chromium-based browsers, Firefox and Safari have to go ahead and build that compatibility in later. See me after class, it's really important to have different kinds of browsers, but it's probably out of scope for right now. So let's check our code. I spelled accelerometer right. Everything's fine. Now, we're going to add encrypted media. We're going to allow encrypted media. And this is because I bet that YouTube wouldn't let us. Oh, heck. Sorry, moved on to step 6 with my apologies. I bet that YouTube won't let us show it without the encrypted media. We're going to have that gyroscope to say, hey, if my user moves the position of their device, give YouTube the option of switching the aspect ratio, switching the direction of the video. And we're going to add web share as well to say, hey, if my user wants to share this, let them use the built-in share features of their operating system or their device to do that. When we check our code, oh, everything continues to be fine. Yeah. Now we're going to do the hard part. I'm sorry. Because the hard part is I'm going to preview some concepts that will hopefully make refer policy make more sense. For folks who did this solo, did refer policy make sense when you did this here? You totally understand it. It totally makes sense. Because I thought refer policy, the way it's described here, is really sort of abstracting away a lot of complicated concepts. I'm going to come back to my notes, if that's okay. And I'm going to briefly talk about how sending and requesting information works on the web. The big thing is, you don't need to know this right now. This is just so we have a little bit of a baseline to start talking about why sending referral information matters. Yeah, this is just to preview it. If you're watching this live, you're probably stuck listening to me. I mean, you're not stuck. You can go away anytime. If you're watching the video for this, you might want to skip ahead if you only want to focus on the course material. So whenever we access information on the web, like I go to freecodecamp.com and click go, or I click to play the video here, I'm not just requesting information, I'm also sending a request, and I send data as part of that request. The way sharing information, the way sending a website or sending a PDF or sending an image or sending the ability to push play on a video works is there are protocols, and that sounds scary. Don't worry. Everything's terrible. This can't hurt us. It can't hurt us yet. So the first thing we're going to talk about, anything you get or send on the web is sent because of a transfer protocol. A protocol is sort of a set series of understood rules, understood steps that let you transfer and share information. I know, it's still scary. We don't need to worry about that too much. There are different types of transfer protocols, and that I promise you don't need to know yet. But the big one that we're talking about when we talk about referrers are two protocols called HTTP or HTTPS, which is just the more secure version of the S stands for secure. Is that true? So HTTP is going to be a really, really technical Wikipedia article. And don't worry, it's just saying, hey, this is the foundation of how data is communicated on the web. Yeah. HTTP is the protocol, the series of rules, the dance we use to send that information back and forth. Yeah. But HTTP and HTTPS, Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secure, is a newer version of the data transfer protocol, but it's a more secure version. This you probably want to learn about more as you continue to get your feet around web development. But this isn't a today problem. This is not even a next week problem. This might be the end of the bootcamp problem. If you do want to learn more, optionally, taking a look at the Wikipedia article and the MDN documentation I've sent here. But the sort of very basic spoilers are if we have an iframe with this video in it, when we send the request to get the data for that video, we also often send information about the request. The referrer in this example is sending the URL of the page that has the iframe on it. Does that make sense? I'm going to come down here. I'm actually going to grab an example. So let's just talk about what the referrer is. So hypothetically, I'm writing HTML on a page in my website. And the HTML file I'm on is jessica.tech/contact.html. Let's say I put an iframe on that, and that iframe has embedded content to example.com. In this case, the referrer is jessica.tech/contact.html. And when it sends this request to get the content from example.com to show, depending on how we've set up our settings for referral policy, it might tell example.com, hi, I'm from jessica.tech/contact, and I am requesting this. I really like this geek for geek refer policy because a lot of this won't make sense yet, but this gives us a really good breakdown of who the referrer is and is who's the navigation, also the referrer, and who it sends. So I'm going to send this along, and y'all can go ahead and fuss at me if this doesn't make any sense. It's okay if it doesn't make any sense. We're just previewing. This is something we will have to learn about someday, but not today. The refer policy attribute sets rules for, hey, when you send a request using HTTP or HTTPS to get the content from this other website to show in this iframe or video, here's how much information about my page I want you to send. Oh, that is a very, very long way to say that. We're going to use the attribute value strict origin win cross origin. This sounds really, really scary, but what this means is, hey, if this information in the iframe is coming from an external website, if it's not the same website I'm in control of, only send information about what page this content is living on. Only send that if it's using HTTPS, if it feels secure. This probably wasn't the best way in the world to explain this because I told you a bunch of protocols exist. Don't worry about them yet. And HTTP and HTTPS are the ways that we transfer things on the web, but don't worry about them yet. But I just wanted to preview, right now we're being asked to write something we don't really understand. And what this is saying is, if this is my website, don't send YouTube, because this is a YouTube, don't send YouTube a ton of information about where my website is that's using this material, unless YouTube feels secure, unless it's using HTTPS. So in order to get this to pass, we've got a bunch of really, really good questions. Let me check my code, and we're going to dive into those in just a second. The last one is a lot less complicated. We're going to add the allow full screen attribute. And we don't have to set a value here. Here, what we're saying is, hey, allow this to be full screen if you want it to be. So I don't know if you all were able to see it because it went full screen for me. But it did indeed, as promised, take up the entirety of my screen. I check our code. Oh, my apologies, I'm in the wrong one. So I added allow full screen, and I came over here, and I don't know if you all can see, I got the little full screen logo, and it's going to be very loud, so I'm going to mute it. It's going to be loud for me, not for y'all. I won't be able to see if this shows because it will be full screen, but actually, so as promised, this is now showing full screen because I have the allow full screen value set. I check our code. All of this workshop has passed. Everything's terrible. Everything's fine. Oh, this is such a good question. So, is it Pranam Sarp is saying, hey, this concept of refers, is this only true for iframes? Or when I use the anchor element or link elements, do those also include refer information? They absolutely do. So passing around refer information and backlink information is, yeah, where did this traffic come from? Where did this person come from to access my page? Is something that can also come from links. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Sorry, it's such an, and we're going to learn more about links tomorrow, I promise. Got some more questions? So if we use iframe for a video, which we have locally, so if we have, the question is, if we've got on our website a video which is saved to our website, it's saved on our server. We're not linking out to YouTube. We're not linking out to PeerTube. Do I need to have a type attribute? I don't think you always do. I think that you wouldn't necessarily need it. I think you'd probably want to include it where you can if you're using an iframe instead of a video. But I think that might be, I'm gonna look this up a little bit more after class. I want it included anyway, but I always want more. Sorry, this is my worst cat who's just had dinner. So, oh, who's protesting for dinner? So he's decided to come and say hello. Um, so yeah, there are a lot of fault tolerant things in HTML. It should work. I'd want to include the type attribute anyway, if we're using an iframe and not video, just to be really specific. And sorry about the cat. So Jacob's asking, why does the iframe have a closing tag? Does anything go inside? I think the iframe has a closing tag for historic reasons. Generally speaking, we don't want to put anything inside it. Technically, you could put like a fallback, something that feels like alt text to say, hey, if you can't see this video, go to blah, blah. But there's a concept in web, this concept in almost everything called best practices. And these are the generally agreed on rules of the right way to do things. And sometimes best practices are things like standards, where it's like, these are definitely the right way to do things. And some of them are, hey, this is more accessible, this makes more sense. And sometimes it's just sort of a general convention. We don't want to put anything inside the closing tags, but the closing tags exist. I'm not super sure why. We could look at the history of it. We probably won't do that now. But my guess is historical reasons. Sorry, not very satisfying. And Jacob has a recommendation, not a question, to say, hey, and this is wonderful. If whenever you're looking and sharing a link or embedding a YouTube videos, remove what's after the question mark SI equals parameter in the URL, as that's adding extra tracking. And a lot of times URLs will have a lot of little information. We've got another question. So Mucha was saying, hey, I tried to use the SRC doc property to insert a website into the exercise sandbox, but it didn't work. It gave you a connection error every time. Do we need to do something else? And sometimes, yes. So let's try. Actually, can you give me, what did the connection error say? Because, hey, I'm getting a connection error. Oh, thank you. Yeah, so we've got a bunch of people who are saying, hey, I'm having, oh, I don't want cookies, thank you very much. And is this the error you saw where it said, sorry, cats. security error blocked a frame with the origin address from accessing a cross origin frame. And this is, I'm going to guess that this might be what you saw. And this is because a lot of times the websites you're working in, and in this case, this is probably the free CodeCamp editor, will have a bunch of extra security baked in. And this is because if you have an SRC doc that allows you to do a bunch of things, it can sometimes be a security issue. So if this was your very own website and you could set whatever rules you wanted, you might not hit this error. I'm taking a wild guess, and it's just a guess, that this is going to be built into the free CodeCamp browser as a little bit of a security thing to keep us from having sort of code injection attacks or the ability to do silly, dangerous things with code on SRC. Oh, Jacob's saying, oh, I tried this with iframe and it's working. The other common thing it might be is a syntax error. And this is accidentally typing the wrong thing. Jacob, could you go ahead and paste your code in for what worked? If it's not a bother. Sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot. And I won't put it on the screen. We'll just have it in the chat for folks who want to see it. Yeah. Okay. Let's go to, let's submit. Let's look at, let's actually share the right tab. Let's look at our lab because we're going to do this as solo work. So we're just going to talk through this just, you love the word just. And, Etta points out that the SRC doc option is generally not considered secure. Thank you. Etta's significantly better at security than I am as well. Etta's saying, cool. Often you can technically use this on your websites, but don't do it. You all can't see Etta backstage being very polite and trying not to scream at me, where she was like, don't, it's not secure, don't. So here we have our boilerplate code, and this is the code to get us started. And we're going to build an app that is functionally similar, but different to this example. I bet you absolutely know what I'm going to ask you for before I ask you, which is please be creative. Oh, sorry, Jacob was saying that SRC dot works as a self-closing tag, as a void tag. Oh, I love that. It feels like it should be a void tag, doesn't it? Wait, I'm going to stay on track. So the big thing, I want to lovingly fuss at you. I'm not your mama. I'm not your boss. I can't tell you what to do. But if I could tell you what to do, I would beg you to make a version of this project that is not about front-end development. Please be as creative as you can while still sticking with the code of conduct. If nothing sassy, nothing inappropriate, and if anybody has some ideas, throw as many ideas as you can into the chat. So the only thing the things we're really asking for are, let's look at our user stories. So what kinds of topic, what kinds of websites, what can we make websites about for a video compilation page? Our user stories, we have to have a main element. Okay. We have to have an H1. We have to have a paragraph introducing our topic. Okay, so heading, some text. We have to have 3 section elements. And we'll talk about sections in a second. I promise. And then we should also have some H2 elements, some subheadings that have an iframe. And we need 3 iframes that should have a source set to a valid video. Okay, so we still have a lot of flexibility. This is not telling us what kind of topic. Each of our iframes needs to have a title. Okay, so it won't pass without a title. And we can set our height and width attributes to the sizes we want. So I want everybody to take a deep breath. And, I'm going to ask you for 2 things at the same time. The first one is, if you have any additional questions, drop them into the chat. But the one I'm more excited about is, give me your silliest, strangest, weirdest. Give me the ideas for a video compilation page that are the most you possible. And I'm going to do some as well. Cat training, information, and videos. What's another one? Cryptids in different countries. And if you've never heard of a cryptid before, cryptids are like imaginary monsters or animals. And the reason I'm talking about cryptids is when we come back to have our session together on Friday, we're going to talk about cryptids as an example. What else could we do this about? We could do cooking techniques. So go ahead, y'all, like throw all of the different ideas that you have for weird and creative ones, and we'll look at them together. I'm going to be so excited. I'm rarely exciting. I'm going to come back to our notes. And I do see I've got one or two questions from you. I'm not ignoring you. I absolutely promise. The video compilation page. We're seeing the section element for the first time. And the section element, we're not explicitly talking about what the section element does. We're just sort of sneaking it in there. The section element is really important. Section elements allow us to divide up the content of our pages into sections that have related content. On Friday, we're going to learn about semantic HTML. And just a preview, semantic HTML is the art or the practice of building our HTML in a way where it's as specific as possible and carries as much meaning as possible. So we're going to use a section element, and we're not showing you how to do it. You have to look it up. You could probably guess. But we'll talk about the section element and its less clever little brother, the div, on Friday when we talk about HTML, semantic HTML. Okay. I've got one question. And then on our way out, we're going to look at all of your ideas. Obviously, I'm never ever going to pick favorites, but I love this. This is perfect. This is such a good idea. Saying, hey, Jess, remember when we talked about licensing for images? Do we also need to be careful about this with videos? Heck yes, we do. So often with sharing sites like embedding a YouTube video, the individual creators who made the video can say, I want to let people embed or not. And these will carry the meaning. So people can click on it and see who made this. It's not going to look like it's yours. But if you download and re-upload it, you need to be real careful that video or that media is licensed for use. So yeah, I'd say that if you're embedding something where there's a lot of permissions built in like YouTube, absolutely yes. They'd probably hand it to you. Even when you are using something like YouTube that has embeds built in, and you know that it's going to tell the user that this isn't yours, it's always really nice. You could add a little caption under it or a bit of text saying, hey, this is a video about turkeys in North America, and it was made by this user. So having that extra context, having that extra citation is almost never going to steer us wrong. I love extra content. I love citing it. And this was such a good question. Thank you. Okay. Oh, somebody was asking cryptids. This is very cryptid aligned. So we've got I'm getting too excited. I'm bouncing around. One more thing. Where can we get videos to link to our projects? We've already talked about YouTube. Vimeo is another really common one. I really like PeerTube. So PeerTube is a non-big tech video sharing platform. It's made by a French nonprofit. And they're not that the people at YouTube aren't nice. I don't know them, but they're just nice. Whenever you get the opportunity to, I like to use small tech. And PeerTube is some small tech I really like. Ooh, do you know what? I don't think we've got the boot camp videos on PeerTube yet, and I'm going to make myself one more note. I know it's very boring to watch me write notes in real time. And there are, Ulido points out, finding hosts for PeerTube to meet. PeerTube is decentralized, which is really, really great in a lot of ways, but is also additionally complex in some ways that we're going to abstract away from right now. So getting your videos up here, kind of hard sometimes. Finding a video on here, maybe not too hard. Oh, also, it's got a cuttlefish logo. How much do I love that? I'm going to come back here and we are going to get rid of our note. Oh, no, no, I lied. We've got some really, really good creative ideas, but I'm going to come all the way to the top because this is what I'm going to ask you to do before the next session. Gosh, all the way to the top. After this session, please, we've got some theory to read, a lot of reading. So what are links? Different target attribute types and how do they work? The difference between absolute and relative paths, the difference between slashes, single dots, and double dots in path syntax. What are different link states and why are they important? And then overarching review of all of the basic HTML we've done so far. The absolute big thing you've got to be careful about is there's a basic HTML quiz, and you need to make sure that you're taking that yourself. You can't share your answers. You can take this quiz as many times as you want, but you're not allowed to share your answers, please. So I'm going to get rid of my notes, and before I leave, I'm going to look at y'all's really, really fun ideas for what you might want to, like video compilation topic ideas. I'm going to do a compilation of people confidently misunderstanding the Dunning-Kruger effect, which is a psychological effect. Lucy's saying, what if it was compilations of different types of mythical monsters, like videos about where the werewolf myth came from? Lucy, if you do wind up doing this, I'd be really excited to see it. You never ever have to show me your work, but I'm really selfish. Jacob's saying, oh, so Jacob's saying that they don't think they're the most creative person in the world, but do not limit yourself before you. Sorry, I'm being mean to you. You do not have to say, oh, I'm not creative enough. This is the whole point of creativity here is you're making stuff for you. It doesn't have to be groundbreaking avant garde because Jacob's saying, oh, I could do science videos. Heck yeah, you could do science videos. We've got somebody saying Dungeons and Dragons freakouts of the 80s. I said cooking techniques because I would really like to get better at cooking techniques. Matthew saying, how about silly videos of cats jumping and blundering? So we've got a bunch of different, anything where you want to have some headings, some text, and different videos around a theme might be really, really good. But for now, I am going to lovingly and kindly let you go for the day. If it is morning where you are, I hope you have the easiest day all day and you're really gentle to yourself. If it's afternoon, I hope it is sunny and perfect where you are. If it is late, late at night, I hope you go to bed right after this. And if you're watching this asynchronously, I hope you're watching this at a really decent time around getting enough sleep. I can't tell y'all what to do, but I can gently and lovingly hope that you're taking really, really good care of yourself. Oh, we've got a really good question on the way out and saying, hey, how can we show you some things we've already done? Is there an appropriate part of the Discord channel? I think that I think that we've seen some Discord moderation where the free code camp folks don't want you to show your own work because it counts as self-promotion. I'm going to go and have a chat with their team to say, hey, what makes sense here? So right now, hang on to your own work. And you might want to use things like CodePen or different tools. We'll talk about them in um, Discord about different ways you can show your work outside of the Free Code Camp environment. But I'll go ahead and talk to the Free Code Camp moderator team to say, hey, 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 how can we make sure that our folks can share their work? For now, hold it in your heart, and we'll work on some ways to make it easier to share that. We're so excited to see you tomorrow, but I won't see you tomorrow. I'll see you on Friday for my most passionate look at semantic HTML. Bye, team.